Before we begin with the story, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It helps us know what kind of content you guys like the most and what we need to improve on. Now let's begin. I've lived on my farm for as long as I can remember. The vast fields of golden wheat, rows of corn, and patches of vibrant vegetables have always been my pride and joy. There's a certain peace that comes with the routine of tending to the land, a rhythm that connects you to the earth in a way few other things can. This morning started like any other. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft orange glow over the fields. I grabbed my tools and headed out, ready for another day of hard work. The air was crisp and fresh, carrying the earthy scent of dew-covered soil. It was the perfect day for harvesting. As I made my way to the wheat field, I noticed something odd. There was a strange, uneasy feeling in the air, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. I shrugged it off, chalking it up to the early morning chill and the remnants of a restless night's sleep. Little did I know, this day would be far from ordinary. I started with the wheat, carefully cutting and bundling the stalks. The work was repetitive but satisfying, and soon I found myself lost in the familiar rhythm. The golden stalks swayed gently in the breeze, whispering secrets to each other as I moved through them. It was almost hypnotic. I was about halfway through the field when I noticed it. At first, it was just a shadow, a flicker of movement out of the corner of my eye. I paused, wiping the sweat from my brow, and looked around. Nothing, just the endless sea of wheat waving in the wind. Shaking my head, I returned to my work, but the uneasy feeling lingered, growing stronger with each passing minute. I tried to focus, but my mind kept drifting back to that shadow. It felt like I was being watched, like something or someone was out there, hiding just beyond the edge of my vision. The sun climbed higher in the sky, its warm rays cutting through the morning chill. I decided to take a break, heading over to the old oak tree that stood sentinel at the edge of the field. Sitting down in the shade, I took a long drink of water and let my eyes wander over the landscape. That's when I saw it again. A figure, tall and slender, standing just at the edge of the cornfield. It was too far away to make out any details, but there was something undeniably wrong about it. My heart began to race as I stood up, trying to get a better look. The figure didn't move. It just stood there, almost blending in with the corn stalks. For a moment, I wondered if it was a scarecrow, but the proportions were all wrong. It was too tall, too lanky. And those eyes, they seemed to glow with an unnatural light, even in the bright daylight. I took a step forward, then another. The figure remained motionless, watching me. I felt a chill run down my spine as I continued to approach. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to run, but I was compelled to know what it was. As I got closer, the figure suddenly moved. It was so fast, a blur of motion that sent my heart pounding in my chest. It ducked into the cornfield, disappearing among the tall stalks. I hesitated for a moment, then plunged in after it. The cornfield was a labyrinth of green and gold, the stalks towering over me, swaying gently in the breeze. I moved slowly, carefully, listening for any sound that might give away the creature's location. The rustling of the leaves was deafening, masking any other noises. I had no idea what I was chasing, but I knew it wasn't human. The way it moved, the way it watched me, it was something else, something far more sinister. I pushed deeper into the cornfield, my senses on high alert. Suddenly, there was a loud crack, like a twig snapping underfoot. I spun around, heart racing, but saw nothing. The shadows between the stalks seemed to shift and dance, playing tricks on my mind. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Then I heard it, a low, guttural growl coming from somewhere to my left. I turned, peering through the dense foliage, and saw the creature. It was closer now, its grotesque form partially hidden by the corn. It was even taller than I had thought, its limbs impossibly long and thin, ending in sharp, claw-like fingers. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and its mouth was twisted into a snarl. For a moment, we just stared at each other, neither of us moving. Then, with a sudden, fluid motion, it lunged at me. I stumbled back, narrowly avoiding its grasp. My mind was racing, trying to process what was happening. I had to get out of there, had to escape this nightmare. I turned and ran, crashing through the cornfield, the creature close behind. The corn stalks whipped against my face and arms, leaving stinging welts. My breath came in ragged gasps as I sprinted towards the edge of the field. I could hear the creature behind me, its growls growing louder, more frantic. I burst out of the cornfield and into the open, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't stop, didn't look back. I ran towards the farmhouse, the only place I could think of to hide. The creature was right behind me, its breath hot on my neck. I reached the farmhouse and slammed the door shut behind me, locking it with trembling hands. I could hear the creature outside, scratching at the door, trying to get in. I backed away, my mind racing. What was it? Why was it here? And what did it want with me? I moved through the house, checking the windows and doors, making sure they were all locked. The scratching continued, growing more insistent. I could hear its growls, low and guttural, filled with a terrifying hunger. I grabbed my phone and tried to call for help, but there was no signal. I was completely isolated, cut off from the outside world. Panic set in as I realized I was trapped, with no way to escape and no one to help me. I moved to the kitchen and grabbed a knife, my only weapon against the creature outside. The scratching had stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. I could feel its presence, lurking just outside, waiting for me to let my guard down. Hours passed, the sun setting and plunging the farm into darkness. I sat in the living room, clutching the knife, my eyes darting to the windows and doors. The silence was oppressive, filled with the promise of imminent danger. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the scratching resumed. This time, it was at the window, the creature's glowing eyes staring in at me. I could see its twisted, grotesque form pressed against the glass, its breath fogging up the pane. I backed away, my heart pounding in my chest. The creature let out a low growl, then moved to another window. It was toying with me, trying to find a way in. I knew it was only a matter of time before it succeeded. Desperation set in. I had to do something, had to find a way to escape. I moved to the back door and unlocked it, slipping out into the night. The creature was still at the front of the house, unaware of my escape. I ran towards the barn, hoping to find some way to defend myself. The night was dark and silent, the only sound my ragged breathing and the pounding of my heart. I reached the barn and slipped inside, locking the door behind me. Inside, the barn was dark and filled with the scent of hay and animals. I moved through the shadows, searching for anything I could use as a weapon. I found an old pitchfork and grabbed it, holding it tightly in my hands. The creature was close. I could feel it. I moved to the loft and climbed up, hoping to find a better vantage point. From up here, I could see the entire barn, every shadow and corner. Then I saw it. The creature was inside, moving silently through the darkness. It was searching for me, its glowing eyes scanning the barn. I held my breath, trying to remain as still as possible. It moved closer, its growls low and menacing. I tightened my grip on the pitchfork, ready to defend myself. The creature stopped below me, its eyes fixed on the loft. It knew I was there. With a sudden fluid motion, it leapt up to the loft, its claws extended. I swung the pitchfork, the sharp tines sinking into its flesh. The creature let out a deafening roar, its body convulsing in pain. I didn't stop. I pulled the pitchfork free and swung again and again, each blow filled with desperation and fear. The creature fought back, its claws slashing through the air, but I was relentless. Finally, with one last powerful swing, I drove the pitchfork deep into its chest. The creature let out a final anguished roar, then collapsed, its body twitching and spasming. I stood over it, my breath coming in ragged gasps, my body trembling with adrenaline. It was over. The creature was dead. I climbed down from the loft, my body aching and covered in cuts and bruises. I stumbled out of the barn and back to the farmhouse, my mind numb with exhaustion. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. The memory of the creature's glowing eyes and twisted form haunted my every thought. But eventually, the fear began to fade, replaced by a steely determination.